tourist tracks. It's fabulous. But other than that, we get on pretty well with most of the animals here.
Listeners, we want to know what scary animals you have in your country. Have you got something that can trump Romanian bears, or is your region more like Antarctica, where the most fearsome predator is a reddish bug? However big or small, we want to hear about it, so please do email us at unexpected@bbc.co.uk, or you can send us a WhatsApp or voice note on +44 330 678 3080. Or if you prefer physical mail, receiving post is always fun. Our actual physical address is Unexpected Elements, BBC World Service, Cardiff, CF10 4GA. As well as your comments, we also love it when you send us questions, because we have a section of the show called Ask the Unexpected. Here on Unexpected Elements, we act like a nerdy matchmaking service, where we connect your question to a scientist with the answers. Here's this week's query.
Hello, Unexpected Elements. My name is Daryl and I'm from Crystal Palace in London. My question is about spider webs. I would like to know why some spiders spin geometric orb webs and others messy cobwebs. Are cobwebs a random tangled mess, or is there a hidden pattern?
We profiled a few potential suitors, scientists, and chose to match Daryl's question with Sarah Goodacre, Professor of Evolutionary Biology and Genetics at the University of Nottingham in England, where she set up their spider lab.
So if you were to go out for a walk in your local park or your local garden, you might be lucky enough to see some really amazing orb webs that are spun by spiders, perhaps from one branch to another branch of a tree, and they catch insects that are flying through the air. Or you might look down at your feet and you might see what looks more like a little tangled cobweb, slightly less neat perhaps, and slightly more conspicuous because it looks a bit fluffier, and that's also used for catching insects that are wandering by. And you might think, well, why are those two types of silken web in different places? Well, they are perfectly and beautifully and intricately designed to catch the insects or the other creepy crawlies that are in that particular area. Sometimes we might look at a silken cobweb and think that it looks very random. In a sense, they are random. The whole point is to create uneven gaps between the different threads so that no one insect can work out how to fall through or how to get through. So although they may not look even, actually there's a design in the randomness in that it does the job extremely well.
So we know the randomness in spiderwebs isn't actually so random. But there are some things about spiderwebs scientists still don't understand.
What also might be of interest is that sometimes spiders add things, though, that we're really not quite sure why they've added. And one example of this would be the particular types of spiders that add a little silken signature to their web. So these are some of the orb weavers. They add a signature, little sort of messy silken twist. And these signatures are really of unknown purpose. We don't quite know why they do it, but they absolutely do. And that's why when you see a web with a particular type of silken signature, you know exactly what kind of a spider span it.
A few weeks ago on the show, we heard about how wasps can turn cockroaches into zombies. And it turns out spiders can be victims too.
Sometimes in nature, things are not quite happening in the way the spider might have intended it, and that extends to their silk as well. So one example would be spiders that have been parasitized by a little wasp. And the wasp being present on the spider seems to change the way the spider spins its silk. It turns the spider's web into something that isn't going to catch flying insects, but is actually going to make the spider look like a sort of a shriveled up leaf that other predators will leave. And what that means is the wasp stays safe too.
So you might not notice a spider on its web if it's been taken over by a parasitic wasp. Thank you, Sarah and Daryl. Godfred, do you get any particularly interesting spider webs in Ghana?
There is the traditional cobweb that we see. Most of the time you find that in the corner of your room. That is if you're not doing your cleaning regularly. The ones that you see when you climb trees. I saw quite a few when I was a kid climbing orange trees in my backyard. But apart from that, nothing major. And we are kind of cool with spiders in Ghana, really. We are not too scared of spiders.
Is that because you're cool and laid back, or because the spiders aren't poisonous and scary?
Well, it's just because the spider is a key part of our social fiber. Growing up, especially if you're an Akan, a significant part of Akan folklore and storytelling is designed around the cunningness of the spider. So the spider has a pretty prominent role in our lives. We see him as a friendly part of our existence. So yeah, we see the spider webs, we leave them be.
Very interesting. What about you, Andrada? Do you get any particularly interesting webs in Romania?
So the most infamous among the spiders is the southern black widow. It's black with red spots on the tummy, and the female eats her mate after mating. The venom.
That is brutal. Okay, so we've got cannibalism. Yeah.
The venom of the southern black widow can be lethal, but there have been very few cases of people killed by the spider. Its web looks irregular, but it's carefully planned, and the threads are quite strong. Most cases of people being bit by the black widow happened in Constanza, where you've been.
Oh gosh, another animal I didn't know to keep an eye out for. Yeah, I was not worrying about spiders whilst I was chilling on the beach, so I'm glad I didn't know then, to be honest. To sustain our nerdy matchmaking service, we need your questions. Please do send them to unexpected@bbc.co.uk, and you can WhatsApp them on +44 330 678 3080. Coming up, more of your emails and WhatsApps after this. It's time to return to the quiz. Earlier in the show, I asked you what Norwegian jazz musician John Larson has climbed onto roofs and collected over 4,000 specimens of. Is it A, moss, B, bird poo, or C, micrometeorites? Well, the answer is C, micrometeorites. You might be wondering what they are. Well, fair enough. They're tiny bits of dust from space left over from the formation of our solar system, and they rain down through our atmosphere. Pretty cool. I was lucky enough to go micrometeorite hunting with John earlier this year, and I made a whole documentary about it. So, if you want to hear more about John's story, you can search for In Search of Stardust wherever you get your BBC podcasts. Here on Unexpected Elements, we love receiving your emails, voice notes, letters, and even postcards, and we like to read out the best bits. On last week's show, we asked for your language slip-ups, and Zach from Virginia in the USA emailed us saying, "I'm not sure I ever thought about this being a language before you asked, but I'm a scuba diver and we have a primitive international sign language to communicate clearly underwater about air, safety, changing depth and where to go using our hands. The OK hand means you're all good, and the thumbs up means return to the surface. I always have to be extremely careful not to use the thumbs up when I'm trying to signal all good, like I would on the surface. My dive buddy and I have accidentally surfaced more than one time because of this. I find that really interesting, that the kind of what I assumed was international symbol of thumbs up changes meaning when you go underwater. Godfred, are there any symbols or gestures that you use that don't translate so well to other people?
Well, not necessarily, but when you come to Ghana, don't point all your fingers at anybody in Accra. You might get into a fight.
Wait, okay, so when you say point all your fingers, how do you point all your fingers at someone? You just kind of put your hand at them?
You lift up your hand, kind of like in the handshake style, but without the handshake.
Aha, okay, so what if you go to handshake someone and they leave you hanging and you end up accidentally pointing your fingers at them?
No, that's okay. But
good.
Just the standing with the hand like that, pointing it at somebody, that will get you to trouble.
Thank you for the warning. I'll be sure not to point all my fingers at you. Andrada, what about you? Are there any gestures that you use that don't translate super well?
No, not really. I can't think of anything strange in Romania, but I have a story from our neighbors in Bulgaria. Their nodding your head means no. And if you want to say yes in Bulgaria, you need to move your head from side to side. This is completely opposite to how we do it.
Okay, so if you're ever having a conversation at the border, people must get very confused. It'd be like, "Hi, do you mind if I just cross this border and come into Bulgaria?" And someone nods and then you step in and they were like, "No, that meant no." I can imagine all sorts of terrible confusion.
Yeah, better use words.
Better to use words, yes. Listeners, if you have any stories about confusing gestures, please do email us on unexpected@bbc.co.uk. Speaking of emails, we've got one from